All right, let's jump right in. I want you to picture the scene. Jesus is on a mountain in Galilee. A crowd is all around him. He's just finished giving the Beatitudes, this totally revolutionary list of who is truly blessed in God's kingdom. But he doesn't pause. He immediately pivots and gives his followers a completely new, profound identity, a new way of understanding their whole purpose. So after turning the world's values completely upside down with the Beatitudes, you have to wonder, okay, what's next? Well, Jesus answers that question by giving his followers two powerful, world-changing metaphors for who they are now. So what were they? The very first identity he gives them is, well, it's pretty startling. He looks at these ordinary people, fishermen, tax collectors, you name it, and he says, "You are the salt of the earth." Now for us, salt is just a simple seasoning we shake on our food. But for his first century audience, wow, this metaphor was absolutely packed with meaning. Jesus wasn't just giving them a nice compliment, he was handing them a critical mission, and it came with a really serious warning. To really get this, we have to understand what salt actually did in the ancient world. It wasn't just for flavor. It had two primary, absolutely vital functions. First, it was a preservative. It literally stopped decay. And second, yes, it was a flavoring agent that made food so much better. These aren't just little details. They're the keys to unlocking this whole idea. Think about this from a historical perspective. For centuries, the entire economy of places like Newfoundland depended on salt. Fishermen would pack their cod catch in these heavy, thick layers of it. Why? Because it was the only thing that stopped the fish from rotting on the long journey across the Atlantic. Salt literally meant survival. And there's a brilliant scientific reason for this. It's a process called osmosis. Basically, when salt surrounds a bacterial cell, it draws all the water out. This causes the bacteria to just shrivel up and die. It actively attacks and neutralizes the things that cause decay. So you see, salt isn't passive. It's a powerful, active force for preservation. So the spiritual connection here is incredibly direct, right? Jesus is telling his followers that their role in the world is to be a preserving agent against moral and spiritual rot. By living out the values of his kingdom, they are meant to actively push back against the corruption that would otherwise spoil everything around them. But then comes the warning. What happens if the salt loses its saltiness? What if it stops being what it's supposed to be? Jesus says it becomes useless, good for absolutely nothing but to be tossed out and trampled underfoot. He's really asking, what happens when a follower loses their unique preserving influence and just blends into the culture around them? Well, the answer is, they lose their very purpose. And this idea goes even deeper into Jewish history. The Old Testament talks about a covenant of salt, which was a symbol for an enduring, permanent, unchanging promise from God. Salt meant permanence. So for salt to lose its savor wasn't just about being ineffective, it was like forgetting the very covenant that defined their entire relationship with God. Then, without missing a beat, Jesus gives them a second, equally powerful identity. If being salt was all about their internal, preserving influence, this next one is about their external, visible impact on the world. He says, "You are the light of the world." And the images he uses are so practical, so powerful. A city on a hill, a lamp on its stand. These aren't things you hide. Their whole point, their very nature, is to be seen. Anyone standing in Galilee at that time would have seen towns perched right on top of the surrounding hills. And as dusk fell, the lights from all those homes would make the city completely impossible to ignore. Jesus is saying a follower's influence, their faith, is meant to be just as visible. It's a public witness, not some private affair. And the lamp analogy? It's just pure common sense. Who would light a lamp, which was a valuable source of light in a dark home, and then immediately cover it up with a basket? It's totally absurd. You light a lamp precisely so it will give light to everyone in the house. In the exact same way, Jesus says a life of faith is meant to shine, to be seen. And he gives a very clear 3-step action plan for this. First, let your light shine. Second, how do you do that? By letting others see your good works, your acts of love, mercy, and justice. But third, and this is the most important part, the purpose isn't for your glory. It's so that others will see those good things you do and glorify your Father in heaven. The light is supposed to point away from itself back to its source. This is such a critical distinction. Later on in the Gospel of John, Jesus says, "I am the light of the world." So his followers aren't the source of the light. They're more like reflectors. They're called to reflect the light of Christ into the darkness, kind of like how the moon reflects the light of the sun. Okay, so when we put these two amazing metaphors together, we get this complete, really dynamic picture of what it means to be a follower of Jesus in the world. They don't contradict each other at all, they're perfectly complementary. So followers have this twofold identity. As salt, their influence works from the inside, subtly preserving what's good and stopping the spread of moral corruption. And as light, their influence is a visible, public witness that shines outward, pointing other people toward God. One is an internal stabilizer, and the other is an external guide. And this is maybe the most radical part of this entire teaching. Just notice the language he uses. Jesus doesn't say you should try to be salt, or I want you to become light. He makes a flat-out statement of fact. You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. This isn't just a job description, it's an identity to be lived out. And this leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. Salt works quietly, almost invisibly, changing things from the inside out. Light works boldly, publicly, pushing back darkness from the outside in. So how can one person or one community truly be both of these things at the same time? Well, that is the challenge and the call of these powerful verses.